So I was recording for about 2 minutes before I realised, oh, my microphone is pointing away. So we just got a bit of information about the 4th animated Mortal Kombat Legends movie, Cage Match. This one was announced around the time Snowblind came out. We knew pretty much straight away that Joel McHale was going to come back as Johnny. So there's been this kind of air of mystery surrounding this film because of Snowblind, because Snowblind, while it carries the Legends name, isn't clear whether it's the same continuity as the others. It has a different art style, and out of the 3 returning characters, only one has the same voice actor from the prior films, and that's the least important to the plot out of the 3. Kano and Sub-Zero got recast. Joel McHale coming back made it seem like this probably is a continuation of those films, but we didn't know for sure. Was Legends going to start moving towards more of an Elseworlds? Were they going to try and keep the original continuity going now that it was clear that these films are successful? Because, you know, just because the second one was absolute dog shit doesn't mean that the films aren't successful and bafflingly popular. So here's what this IGN exclusive is giving us about Cage Match. First off, they have an exclusive photo of Johnny in the new movie. That's not a photo, that's a screenshot. I know I've made clear in the past that I have no faith in IGN as a website, but you don't need to keep disappointing me. You don't have to keep doing that. You can try. This film's got a different art style. I don't think it's the same one from Snowblind. Could just be because of the colouring or whatnot. We'll have to wait until we see an actual trailer to really say for sure. It's definitely closer to what we had in Snowblind compared to what we had in the previous 2 films. But Johnny's outfit is the same one from Scorpion's Revenge. It's that same recolor of his suit from the MK1 prequel comic and MK9. That coupled with Joel McHale coming back, a couple more cast reprisals that we'll see later. Decent bet that is the case, that it is the same continuity. It's not stuff talking about the producers and whatnot. Who cares? Then we move down to the voice cast. And what I find funny about this is, it says, here's what these people have been in. Some of these people have been in previous MK Legends films, and that doesn't get mentioned. Like, guys, come on. Grey Delisle, been cast as Kia. Kia is one of the 3 assassin ladies. It's Serena, Kia, and Jataka, who serve Quan Chi in MK Mythologies and Armageddon. Kia was the long-haired white woman played by Kerry Hoskins, who was Sonya Blade in MK3. Grey Griffin is here playing her. She was also Kitana in the Legends films. You'd think that'd be worth bringing up. We have Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing as herself, which I do worry that as these films, the series keeps going on and gets more successful, that we might start to get loads of just completely pointless celebrity guest stars. I mean, we had a bit of that last time where we had Faramir from Lord of the Rings playing Kano. He was good though, he was very good in that role, but yeah, I worry that this might become a bit of a trend instead of just casting voice actors. Fortunately, this is the Johnny Cage one. If there's ever a point to have a celebrity cameo in a Mortal Kombat thing, it's to appear alongside Johnny Cage. Where that's going to go, who knows? I mean, she's credited second, so you have to assume she's probably going to play a big role. Otherwise, why would you list her second? Unless it's just because she's a big name, and that's just what we do in Hollywood. Underneath that, we have Dusan Brown as Chuck Golden. Now, the name Chuck is interesting because in the MK1 prequel comic, that's the name of Johnny Cage's agent. I don't think it was Chuck Golden. I'm not sure if they gave him a surname or not, but Chuck was Johnny's agent. He's the guy, the short guy who's like, nah, Johnny, come on, this tournament thing, what the hell's that about? And it's cool that that's getting acknowledged, that that's coming back in some way. Dusan Brown is black, so I imagine Chuck probably will be as well. That's really all there is to say for now. And Chuck is one of those characters who's very little in terms of actual established character, other than he's worried about Johnny doing this tournament and how it might affect his career, but that's it. He never came back. They never did anything else with him, so he's kind of a blank slate. This could end up just being one of those in name only things, like, oh, he's called Chuck. I mean, we don't even know from this if he is Johnny's agent. He could just be some guy. He could be like Art Lean from the 95 movie. I don't know why Art Lean is not in this film. That would be a fun thing to do, because a lot of fans want him in the games for some reason, although that might just be a meme. Then we have Robin Atkin Downs from Look, DC Showcase Constantine, The House of Mystery. He's playing Shinnok, and you couldn't put, oh, Robin Atkin Downs, who played Shinnok in the first 2 Legends films and also played Kano in the first one. You couldn't put that, really? It's also just kind of funny because IGN is, they cover gaming news. That's the main thing. They do cover movies and stuff as well outside of movies based on games, but they primarily discuss games. You could list some of the games he's been in, like Robin Atkin Downs of Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain fame. Nah, how about DC Showcase Constantine, The House of Mystery? See, at least when they're listing Grey Griffin from Teen Titans, go, yeah, she plays Raven in that. It's kind of a big thing. It's one of her most long-lasting roles. So it makes sense to list that. It's just such a dumb thing to do, but you know, IGN, Igan, Zehra Fazal, I've never heard of this person, who's playing Jataka, which is the third member of the Netherrealm Assassin trio. She's the Black Lady. Fun fact, she apparently had 2 different actresses playing her in mythologies, one for the sprites and one for the cutscenes. I don't know why that would be done, but apparently that was the case. Key and Jataka, like Chuck, have very little in the way of character. I mean, they're just Quan Chi's servants. Now, there's no mention of Quan Chi in this, but Shinnok is here, so they can just serve him, it's fine. Though it is interesting to consider that Serena is not listed in this, so is she just not in it? Then we start getting the weird shit, like here's Gilbert Gottfried as David Doubledy, and it's like, isn't Gilbert Gottfried dead? Didn't he die like 2 years ago? I mean, if he's in this, it's either a very small thing, or it's that he was doing voice work for this thing years ago, and this thing has been in the works for a very long time, which does not bode well for, because I think I and a few other people in my kind of circle were hoping for was that after the train wreck that was Battle of the Realms, and then how much better Snowblind was, that maybe this was a sign that they were taking lessons from Battle of the Realms, that perhaps Battle of the Realms was such a misfire that they decided to kind of pivot in a different direction. But if Gilbert Gottfried's in this, that could suggest that this film was in development way before that, like before Battle of the Realms even came out. And if that is the case, then this may not have learned any lessons from Battle of the Realms, which is unfortunate. Because I mean, I was already going into this, like, I've made no secret of the fact that I cannot stand Johnny Cage in these movies, that he is one of the worst adapted characters in these films, because in the games, he's the highlight. He is the best character in the games. You know, he's the grand unifier, whether you like the NetherRealm trilogy or not. We all agree Johnny Cage is fantastic in those games. But then in the films, the Legends films, I can't stand him. All of his comedic dialogue is terrible, and he's just there to be a joke. Now, being the main character of this film, presumably he won't be a joke, unless they make like the arc that, oh, he's the joke, aha, no one takes him seriously, and he's a shit fighter like he was in the last 2 films. But then he's gonna be better by the end. I don't want them to make that some kind of character arc for Johnny, you know, because we've had enough. I mean, they already did 2 films in a row where they're like, oh yeah, Johnny Cage is a joke until the end when he beats someone up. They did it twice. I don't want them to do it a 3rd time. Then we have Kelly Hu as Ashra. And again, it's like Kelly Hu from Arrow and X-Men 2, not Kelly Hu, who was Devora in MKX and 11. I don't know if she did the grunts for Battle of the Realms, but she was also Sindel and Frost in MKX, but then not in MK11. So she's been around with this franchise for almost a decade now, and so now she's playing Ashra. And I'm like, yeah, I think Kelly Hu's like normal voice is actually a really good fit for Ashra. I'll speculate about the story a bit after we know what we have been given altogether, because we've not read through that stuff, we just looked at the cast. But then we have another one, Matt Yang King from Elemental as the concierge, and it's like, yeah, Matt Yang King, the guy who was Liu Kang in MK11 and 1, and who was Fujin in Aftermath, and Kung Lao in Battle of the Realms. Another guy who's been with this franchise for quite a while. I mean, he's the guy who narrates the trailer for the upcoming, very much hyped new entry of the series, and they don't mention that here because you can't spell ignorant without IGN. Then we have Phil Lamar of Futurama fame, not of Kotal Khan fame, playing Brian Van Jones. So clearly there's going to be a lot of just random brand new characters, most likely from Johnny's side of the NK universe, based on the fact they just have like normal people names and they're not like, you know, Ashra and Jataka and whatnot. Matthew Mercer, Resident Evil Death Island, who was also, you know, Curtis Stryker in MK9 and Battle of the Realms, and Smoke in Battle of the Realms, as a director slash bully. So does that mean he's playing both of those roles, or it's one character? Is it a director who's bullying Johnny? Is it someone who bullied him in his youth who is now a director? Are we going to get basically the opening of 1995, but Johnny punches the guy or something? Who knows? And then we have Dave B. Mitchell of Call of Duty franchise. Not even listing a specific game. I don't know what role Dave Mitchell was in those. I can tell you who he is in Mortal Kombat. He's Garrus and Sector in MK11, and he's Sector and Raiden in the prior Legends film. So another role reprisal. It might have been nice to mention that Raiden is the same guy from the previous films, but IGN. Then we have Armin Taylor from Justice Society World War II as Master Boyd. Master Boyd was the guy Shang Tsung posed as in the 95 movie. He's the guy who's like, hey Johnny. And then he shows him that it once a generation, which basically, like, this is the guy who gives us exposition to the audience about the Mortal Kombat tournament, like when it's held and whatnot. That's him. Who knows what they're going to do with him? He's listed last, so it's probably just like a cameo, like a fun little nod, like, oh, I remember that guy from the 95 movie? He's in this too. He's part of Johnny's backstory. So, looking at this cast, yeah, it's interesting how there are a bunch of the people who were in prior Legends films, some reprising their role, some playing new characters. Some of the choices are interesting, but then again, that's something you kind of come to expect from, especially after the last film. The people making these films, I would say the people making the Legends films, it's not that they don't understand the MK universe, that they do. It's just there are some things where, I guess they stick too close to NetherRealm's ideas of the MK universe, and it doesn't really work, like the rules of the tournament and whatnot, or there are times when they just have their own weird ideas, or they clearly had a much longer thing planned out and they just weren't allowed to do it, so they crammed it all into one go, which is, it's less a lack of understanding of the series and more just a mistake on the production end. Like they shouldn't have done that. They should have said, we'll scale it down then and just try and make it more self-contained, just adapt MK2 as is and leave it at that. They know Kia Jitaka, they know Ashra, they know Chuck, they know Master Boy. These kind of references I would pull. I struggle to be excited for it because there's always the potential for these characters to show up in like one scene and die, or to be horribly mishandled. But the fact that Chuck and Master Boy are being pulled is a sign that these people know the franchise. Whether they were long-time fans or people who were just like, we'll work on this thing, let's do some research. Whatever the case, these people clearly have some degree of passion for the franchise. I think it's still the same people making it, for the most part, animation aside. I have more faith in this than Mortal 1 Kombat, I'll tell you that. And not just because Cage Match is actually a pretty solid title, whereas Mortal 1 Kombat is absolutely atrocious as a name. Next, we have the official plot synopsis. Mortal Kombat Legends Johnny Cage. Mortal Kombat Legends Cage Match is a period piece. That does have me worried. You look at some of this stuff and you're thinking, Shinnok is here. And Shinnok merged with the one being and died in the last film. So, would that make this a prequel? But then, where's Quan Chi? Where's all the characters who would be around? And how would Johnny not know about all this stuff? Why would he, if this was a prequel, why would he be like, Baraka, you're just some dude with cool makeup? I guess we'll find out. So, neon lights, suits with shoulder pads, jumping from explosions in slow motion. In 1980s Hollywood, Johnny's looking to become an A-list actor. So it is a prequel. I feel like if you're going to distance it from the prior film that much in terms of timeline, because I'm not sure if there's any indication of when the film is set. I'm going to guess that the Legends are meant to take place in the 90s, like the original games did. I don't recall Johnny having a smartphone, but to be fair, I've only seen Scorpion's Revenge and Battle of the Realms once a piece, so I could just be not remembering, but I'm pretty sure they didn't have anything like that. So I imagine this is just, 10 years earlier. This would be Johnny in his early 20s, probably. I would have gone with a different design for him just to showcase that, but yeah. When his co-star, Jennifer Grey, goes missing from set, Johnny finds himself thrust into a world filled with shadows, danger and deceit. As he embarks on a bloody journey, Johnny quickly discovers the City of Angels has more than a few devils in its midst. He faces off against a sinister secret society, like the Brotherhood of Shadow, plotting a nefarious scheme, but the brutal fight against the bloodthirsty warriors of the Netherrealm is just beginning. Can Johnny, alongside other combat legends... What? Do they mean Ashra? Save humanity and more importantly his career. So that doesn't give me much to work with, but looking at the characters who are included in this, cause I look at that and I think, so if him and other legends, the only ones listed here would be Raiden, who Johnny has never met, and Ashra, who I could conceivably imagine that Johnny could potentially get through this film and just never learn about the Netherrealm. Like Shinnok is just in the Netherrealm, maybe has a fight with Raiden or something, and Johnny only encounters Jitaka, Kia, Ashra, and some other random miscellaneous one-off dudes, and as a result of that, he just happens to never find out about the Netherrealm stuff. He's just like, oh, there's just some cult or something, and so he just fights those characters. But I am a little concerned about this setup where, because you look at Johnny's design having the same actor, it feels like it would be part of the same continuity as the original two Legends films, not its own thing. I mean, it could be its own thing, which would explain why Johnny can do this. I mean, this was a bit of an issue with Special Forces, because that film is... that game, rather, is set before MK1, and Jax and Kano are both going after this magic artifact. But then Jax just doesn't believe anything Johnny has to say about the tournament in the MK2 prequel comic, which obviously would take place later that same year. But it's like, you know about magic, Jax. You know magic exists. So it's just one of those things where It could end up just being like that, this weird continuity thing. It could be its own standalone thing. Maybe Johnny just won't learn about the Netherrealm. I get the feeling there are going to be more characters that we've not been told about, just because it says other combat legends. And the only person here he would team up with is Ashra. Ashra as a nemesis for the Brotherhood of Shadow makes perfect sense. Maybe they'll go into this idea that some fans have proposed and that I do plan to do a wasted potential on, but maybe I'll wait for until the film's out just so we can use footage of her. The idea of Ashra being a former member of the Brotherhood who then comes out to get them. That's something someone proposed in the comments at one point. I was like, that's a good idea. I should consider expanding on that. But I imagine there must be more characters we're not being told about. There must be other dudes who are going to show up. Maybe we'll get like a cop cabal, like before he's Burns. I mean, technically, the version we saw in Snowblind doesn't have to be from the same universe. It could be a different take on Cabal. Maybe there'll be a secret new character, some new character from MK1 who we've not heard about yet, and they're going to be revealed. Then it's like, oh yeah, this character's also going to be showing up in this film. They're just not told us yet. But it does seem weird that you're listing characters like Master Boyd is in this. Random characters who don't have names. Chuck is in this, but they're not going to mention Johnny's allies in this fight. So I'm a little concerned. I try not to give MK the benefit of the doubt because it very rarely works out for me, but I would say Snowblind was a good film, the best thing to come from MK since the transition over to NetherRealm Studios. I'd say these guys have earned the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they know what they're doing, that this film is going to be a nice, cool little prequel that will make perfect sense, or that it's just its own thing, because, you know, set in the 80s, I mean, it could be an alternate continuity. We don't know yet. Although if it was going to be an alternate continuity, that would give them more freedom to just include other characters just at will. Maybe the fact that Sonya's not here when she's so integral to Johnny's story nowadays could be a sign that this is an alternate continuity, that it is the same continuity as the original films and it's a prequel. We'll have to wait and see. But all I can really say is don't let me down, guys. And as for IGN, when you are talking about the voice cast in one of these productions and you say, here's what this person has been in, try and keep it relevant. Keep it relevant to the gaming audience. Like, oh, Robert Atkin Downes was in a DC showcase. No, say he was in MGS5 and the previous Legends movies, right? A bunch of these guys have been in MK and NetherRealm works before. List those. Oh look, it's Phil Lamar, Kotal Khan. He's Kotal Khan. He's here in this, and he's also Aquaman in Injustice. Then Matt Mercer, who was Stryker in 2 films ago, and now he's playing this other guy. Dave Mitchell's reprising Raiden. Don't be the meme. Don't be the you can't spell ignorant without IGN meme. Be better, IGN. People come to you for news coverage. You should be better than this. Stop it. Cage match hopefully will be good. I just hope that they've reined Johnny in a bit, but honestly, probably not. So I just got through editing and I thought to ask my good buddy Sonic RXD, because he's more familiar with the Legends films than I am, if Johnny ever had a cell phone in the prior films, and he did. In Scorpion's Revenge, he's shown having a conversation on a smartphone early in the film, which means that those films would be contemporary. So that film came out in 2019, presumably then the film is set around that time, which means then that this film being in the 80s, unless Johnny is really old in the other 2 Legends films and he's got a really good plastic surgeon who can help Botox the shit out of him, I think it's safe to assume that this is indeed an alternate timeline, alternate continuity thing, unless they're just doing some weird shit where it's like, oh, whack timeline stuff. I mean, this could have easily worked if they had, not blown up the Hourglass and Chronicus Skull in the previous film. They could say, oh, well, here's the new timeline, this is the new era. But it probably is for the best to just say, nah, the old films just stay as their own thing, and this film is just a new alternate continuity. The question still remains about whether Snowblind is the conclusion to the original continuity, or if that is standalone as well. I mean, the name Legends just makes so much more sense for this kind of Elseworlds, each one's a fresh start type storytelling. While I think this particular Johnny Cage story is not all that enticing as a concept, I think by having the Legends films overall going forward being this kind of story where they're all just standalone, maybe 1 or 2 are connected, but they're basically just all doing their own thing, free of continuity, there's potential here for some really cool stuff. Who knows, maybe they'll be able to make something good out of Legends Johnny Cage prequel spin-off alternate timeline thing set in the 80s. I predict lots of 80s music that I am not nostalgic for because I wasn't born yet, and 80s nostalgia has lasted like a decade too long. It needs to stop. Please stop.